morning, everyone. Great to see you all, as always. Welcome, 8th grade visitors and your parents. Thanks so much for joining us today. We are closing in on the end of T1 for our seniors. The year is both going very quickly and very slowly, perhaps depending on the day. We really appreciate that we begin to have a whole host of seniors begin to realize that morning meetings are fleeting and that it's an opportunity to share some final thoughts with the community over the course of the year. So I'll put the plug in for seniors. If you haven't yet given a morning meeting in your career here, 2 trimesters, it's your time. And this morning we have one of our wonderful seniors, River.
Hi, my name's River. I'm a senior, and I'm going to talk about my reservation. So the traditional original name for my tribe is Ankh-Akmo-A'atam. This means the Salt River people. So Akmo is my name. So in lieu of Thanksgiving and my senior bucket list, I wanted to share a part of my identity that I think I talk a lot about, but at least with seniors, but rarely get the opportunity to actually show some of the faces and places that make up who I am. My dad is Native American and my mom is Jewish. The tribe I associate with, where my family lives and I often visit, as I just mentioned, is the Ankh-Akmo-A'atam, or Pima, as it is commonly referred to. The first name, I already said, translates to Salt River people, but Pima translates to I don't know. And it was given to us by early missionaries who asked where the gold was. So the official name of my reservation is the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian Community. It's located right next to Scottsdale, Arizona. It has 52,600 acres in total, with 19,000 acres of natural preserve. And the pictures that I'm showing today of the landscape and the people are sort of collections of photos that I've taken over my experiences there. There are wild horses, not necessarily native to America, but wild. Lots and lots of flat plains and a lot of grass, like this. A lot of that. It's really, really, really hot, like just really brutally hot. And very beautiful and very colorful at the same time. This is the Salt River, and although only a portion of it actually runs through our reservation, it, like, for our entire history has been sort of the monument of our culture. It's supplied us with food, and I mean, it's sort of like our creator. The Salt River works its way into every story. This is like a UFO shot. There are a lot of really, the houses are really far apart, because everyone has their own allotment of land, and some of them are completely abandoned or torn down, and you never really see anybody there, because some people buy trailers thinking that they're going to build a house on that land, and then they never get enough money to build the house, and they end up just living in the trailers, and then eventually somehow leaving the trailers. There's a lot of them. And it's really, if you drive through, you will see, I guarantee you would see a lot of them. A lot of old religious relics sort of scattered throughout the mountain ranges and like behind rocks and things. You see a lot of crosses. So these are a lot of statistics that I think the outside media seems to really push on, like, characterizing reservations. You know, and I think we see a lot of like numbers trying to represent the people, but it makes it so hard to humanize these like people like my family. It doesn't name them; it just sort of turns them into a statistic. But the only number that I want to talk about is 219. There are 219 kids on the reservation right now who are 18, just like me. And I can't help but think about how these differences and how these 18 years have been so different for each of us. I must acknowledge, really, that I do not speak from the perspective of an autism kid who lives on the reservation. I would also like to acknowledge that by referencing this number, I'm making generalized statements about these kids, of whom I only know a few. It is imperative that I name these things to separate me from this land and this life, that separate me from this land and this life just as much as the things that connect me to it. I share this with you today, this piece of my identity, as someone who is not one of those 219 18-year-olds on the reservation. I share this with you as a straight male with lighter skin in a culture that privileges these qualities. I share this with you as a student at the Bay School, where my experience as a student is one that so many on the reservation couldn't even fathom, where my voice is encouraged, my well-being considered, my body is fed and warmed, my identity is not suppressed or confined, instead it blossoms and I am received with open minds and hearts. I live in a city where the voice of social justice often rings stronger than any other, where being open-minded and respectful can seemingly be mainstream. And the list goes on. This is my cousin, my nephew, Aiden Blackcloud Castaneda. I was originally going to talk about some more of the traditions and stories, but as I was thinking about him, I kind of wanted to just talk about him. This kid means the world to me. When we as privileged Americans here at the Bay School discuss privilege, we often find ourselves wrestling with the question of what to do about it. Aiden is 7 now, so when I started high school, he was 3. Aiden is going through a lot of things that I went through when I was his age. He's living with a single mother, being diagnosed with ADD, having long hair, and being the only native kid in his class. Aiden goes to a school off the reservation in Scottsdale. This is my favorite photo of him. And I see him struggling with his identity amongst peers who have no idea what his native experience is like, and teachers who continue to define native culture with false narratives that fail to acknowledge the tragedy and oppression woven into our identity. Every week, I FaceTime him at school and ask about how everything is going. He was having trouble doing work, and but accepted a FaceTime with me as bargaining currency with his teacher. We have always bonded over our middle names, Redtail and Blackcloud. So I had strong emotions when he described some of the ways his classmates reacted to his middle name. That's weird, or no, what's your real name? I'd heard it all so many times before. Part of me sees the opportunity to help him avoid the pain of hiding a middle name or disassociating it with the native heritage that is behind it, like I did for so many years. I would tell him to embrace it with that lion-like roar he does so well before pouncing on me, proudly claiming his heritage and taking pride in his name. The other part of me is still 7, and I didn't want him to deal with the pressures of being seen as the voice of all natives, the token of old Indian ways, an artifact. I bounced the question back at him. I said, "How do you feel about your middle name?" To which he replied, "I'm Aiden Blackcloud. Who else would I be?" I think again about those 219 18-year-olds back on the reservation, so many of whom see the privilege that I experience every day as unreachable because of their identity and environment, who decide to hide their names and cut their hair in order to at least survive in the white society that surrounds them on all sides. We talk about sharing privilege. When I see that pride in Aiden, a youthful pride that seems to be less and less common amongst these kids on the reservation, I can't help but feel that if I can do anything to encourage these young kids to claim their names like Aiden does, I must do all that I can. How can I share my privilege in a way that would encourage kids to claim their identity as surely and proudly as Aiden does? How can I reclaim the Ankh Akmal A'ata?